Good afternoon. My name is Ginger Evans, and I'm here with my colleagues Jack Bick, Jackson Simple, and Jack Perkinson. And today we will be talking about cell phones in schools. Currently, 95% of U.S. teen students own a cell phone, according to a study done by the Pew Research Center. This number has increased over 24% in the last decade. Phones have been used in various environments, from the workplace to the classroom, which leads us to the question: should cell phones be banned in schools?
As we developed this question, our group came up with 3 potential solutions to solve this problem. One solution is that no cell phones will be allowed in school property. Another solution is that cell phone usage will not be moderated at all in schools. And our final potential solution is that students would be required to give their cell phones to their teachers at the beginning of each class period with their phone turned off. And this last potential solution is what we used as our team solution for this problem.
Our team solution allows for the minimal amount of distractions in the classroom. In a study done by Harvard University, it was found that 80% of students felt as though cell phones decreased their ability to pay attention in the classroom. This is an important factor to consider because our solution would remove cell phones from a student's hands, therefore decreasing the distractions in the classroom.
In another study done by CM Ed, a professor at Xavier University, had two groups. One a control group, as in they had one group of people in a classroom with a lecture and a quiz on the lecture after. The other group had the same lecture and the same quiz, but in the middle of their lecture they had distractions, as in ringtones in the middle of it. The first group took the quiz and got a 95% compared to the second group that got a 68%. This would prove that distractions in classrooms would cause grades to drop.
In another study completed by the California State University research team, it was found that students who sent 8 or more texts in a 30-minute class period received substantially lower grades than those who sent 5 or less text. This shows that cell phones in the classroom being used during a lecture or a lesson can decrease grades or lead to learning or hinder learning. Finally, in a study done by Jeffrey Kuznikoff, a professor at the University of Miami, it was found that students who were not allowed to send text during a class period did 70% higher on recalling information than those who were allowed to send as many texts as they pleased. This is why we have eliminated our second potential solution, because we feel that that solution would allow for too many distractions, because students would have their phones with them at all times.
Our solution causes for the least amount of mental issues compared to other solutions. To give context, about 22% of people with phones are addicted to them. Are addicted to them according to Akashi, a professor at Shreveport University in Iran. With this addiction rate so high, the more distraction and anxiety happen in the class. It leads to anxiety because a study done by Huang, a researcher at Pew Research Center, said that 4 in 10 people get anxiety with their phone away from them. And this would be a limitation to our solution because we would have to take away phones in general. Also, with the increased addiction rate, numbers of depression, OCD, and interpersonal disorders would also increase. With this ban on phones, these numbers would dramatically decrease and help sustain mental health issues. When people are addicted to their phones, they also tend to use them at night more than anything else. So with this, a quote by Sarah Thomas, a graduate from Gutenberg, Sweden University, says that high mobile phone use was associated with sleep disturbances, and sleep disturbances cause mental health issues.
Another aspect we looked at within our research was the importance of students being able to have the access and ability to contact their parents and authorities in certain situations. Now, many students have certain medical health conditions, and these include allergies, asthma, and certain mental health conditions. And with these conditions, it is very important, and in fact critical, that these students know that they have access to contact their parents, to contact their doctors, and to contact the authorities if an emergency situation relating to their condition were to occur. Ormond Simpson, an education specialist, states that smartphones are the main barrier to student success in schools. Now, this is important because if students are too busy focusing on whether or not they can contact their parents in emergency situations, they won't be focusing on the true task at hand, which is learning. Now, if students don't understand the basis of an idea while learning it, then that can lead to other problems down the road, such as that student not understanding the rest of the unit they're learning and receiving a lower grade in that course overall. Now, students being able to contact their parents goes hand in hand with distractions, because in both these situations, students are not focused on learning, which is the most important thing they need to be focusing on at that time. And although our solution doesn't allow students to have their cell phone in their hand every second of the day, they know their phone is just a step away in the safe hands of their teacher, in case they needed to call their parents in an emergency. The solution is better than the solution of students not having schools or phones at school at all, because then they couldn't contact their parents at all, and that would impair their learning because they are distracted. Our other solution was that students can have their cell phones in their hands at all times. This also would not work because the distractions would be too heavy and would impair students' learning either way.
Access to phones can be beneficial in emergent and non-emergent situations, as mentioned by my colleague. As you may know, there was a shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida last Valentine's Day, and during this crisis, students and staff involved were tweeting and communicating with their loved ones, letting them know what was happening and letting them know if they were safe. Access to phones can truly mean life or death in these situations, so having them around in schools can be beneficial, which is why our team solution is the best, because in one of our potential solutions, we would allow no cell phones on school property at all, which would not leave room for enough effective communication in these dire situations, rather than every student having their phone to pertain to their individual needs in these situations. And while most students may benefit from limited access from their phones in schools, all students may not. In a study done by the National Center for Educational Statistics, it was found that during the 2017 to 2018 school year, there were 700,000 students nationwide enrolled in public school with autism spectrum disorder. The DSM-5 classifies autism spectrum disorder as a variety of mannerisms that can affect a student's everyday life. These traits that these autistic children can possess are very complex and nuanced, so apps have began to be used in schools to help these children harness the traits that they may be lacking. An example of one of these apps is Pictello. Pictello was designed to improve speech and language disabilities by using pictures and videos to help to teach these children different lessons. Because these apps and developments have been so beneficial in the autistic community, this is how our solution is making a compromise by allowing students to hand their phones to their teachers during class instead of being able to learn.
As we developed this question, we found that cell phone usage has increased drastically over time. We found this has negative impacts on learning and education. So when developing our solution, we tried to our solution combats this by removing cell phones from the classroom in general.
Our solution is a compromise between other solutions because, one, we're still giving up the cell phones, but they're in reach or in sight of where you have them, so it decreases anxiety. But at the same time, this would be the least amount of distractions because they don't have their cell phones with their fingers on.
Then our work's ended.
Jack Ferguson, describe how the content of the team presentation was changed as a result of group discussion.
Well, first off, we had a group discussion. We had a slide presentation, much like theirs, much like the first group that had in front of us. But over time, and looking at their examples, we changed our slide composition to something more like what we saw on the screens.
In the real presentation, I wouldn't ask the question again, but I'm going to ask because I don't think you understood what I was asking. So I'm asking you to describe how the content
Oh, the content.
of the presentation
first, I really wanted to put my physical aspects, or physical illnesses in our slides. But as a group discussion, we really didn't, because it wasn't as strong as a claim, as our 3 claims we already had: distraction, mental health, and accessibility. And so we talked as a group and decided not to leave that one out, and that's how it came together.
Jackson, what is an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided to exclude from your team presentation?
We did not use Jack Vick's research about how social media may be beneficial in class, because teens are very centered around their use of social media, and since they are so engaged in it, using it in the classroom may actually be beneficial to how much they can learn a certain topic. And we did not include that in our presentation because it did not flow well with the claims we already had in our presentation, being accessibility, distraction, and mental health.
Jack Vick, having finished your project, what, if anything, do you consider to be a gap in your team's research that, if addressed, would make you feel more confident about your conclusion?
I feel that our limitations weren't as thorough as they should have been, and I would feel better if we researched our limitations more and added some limitations from what other group members had and from their IRRs and put it into our presentation.
Ginger, how did the group decide to include Jackson Simple's lens?
Well, Jackson Simple had the political lens, and his lens focused a lot on the importance of students having access to their cell phones to contact certain people, because that would need to go into the process to enforce the ban. And we incorporated Jackson's lens about this by using the slides about access, because students, it is really important for them to be able to contact their parents